What's up, Sound Squads? Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about solving multi-step equations. We're talking about linear or any function, but this is a very important topic, probably one of the most fundamental skills, topics that you really need to know in order to have a good grasp with all the algebraic rules and concepts that you guys are going to learn. So your goal is to get the variable by itself. That's your goal. Get the variable by itself. Move everything to one side. It doesn't matter which side it is. So we're going to use inverse operations, or in this case we'll say Pemdas. So we are going to do add, subtract first to move things around, then multiply, divide, and exponents in the parentheses. So that's your goal. It doesn't matter where the variable's at. You can move it to the left side or the right side, but whichever side you decide to move it, make sure you move all the numbers and everything else to the other side. So let's take an example. My first example, let's say I have 2x minus 4 equals 7. So I always ask my kids, is the variable by yourself? Is it by itself? It is not. It has a minus 4 and a times 2. So it has a times 2. 2x means times, and it has a minus 4. Your goal is to use inverse Pemdas, so add, subtract if necessary first, and then multiply, divide, and so forth. So we have to get rid of this minus 4 first. So then how do we move that 4 to the other side, this minus 4? We use inverse operations, so we're going to use the opposite. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. If you add 4 to both sides, you actually cancel it out because 4 minus 4 is 0. So what's left over? You have 2x. 7 plus 4 is 11, and we're slowly getting this variable by itself by moving everything to the other side. So your next step, times 2, still not by itself, we have to divide. We're going to use opposite. So your answer is 11 over 2. That's your answer. That will make this equation true. Remember, when we talk about equations equal, we can always plug it back in to check it. So for example, x, if it's 11 over 2, does it equal 7? That's your goal. Does it equal 7? We try, those cancel out, so you have 11 minus 4, and then 7 equals 7. So that's a good way to check your answer so you don't make your mistakes. Alright, so our goal is to solve, get the variable by itself, and then check your answers. Distributive property. If you have a problem like this, right, there's a couple ways we can do this. You can either distribute first, or because it's a times 2, we can technically get rid of this 2 by dividing. So if you want, a couple ways, you can divide this by 2 on both sides, that cancels out. And then you're left with x minus 1 equals 2. Is the variable by itself? No. So we have to add 1 to both sides. So x equals 3. Alright, same thing how we did the other problem. We can go test it. Is 2 times x, x is 3, is that equal to 4? We'll check it. So 2 times 2, is that equal to 4? Yes, 4 is equal to 4. So we know we did that correctly. So I love problems when it's equals, when we're solving. Anything with solving I love because you can always check your answers. So I would strongly encourage you guys to always check your answers for that. Alright, last problem, what if you have variables on both sides? So right now you have a variable here, and you have a variable there. You just have to decide which way do you want to move the variables. Do I want to move the variables to the right, or do I want to move the variables to the left? It is preference. Some kids just always like to move everything to the left. The way I would do it is, which way would make your life a lot easier? Which way ignores negatives? Just makes it less complicated to, being more prone to making mistakes. So I would actually move this over there, move my variables to the right, and move all my numbers to the left. The reason why I do that is because if I subtract 1x on both sides, you actually get a positive 2. versus if I subtracted 3x to the other side, then you have a -2. They will all give you the same answers. So then what do you have to do? Now it's like what we just did before. Your goal is to get x by itself. So we have a -2 and a -4. Inverse operations. Let's move the 4 first. You have to add 4 to both sides. Cancel that out. So you're left with 1 plus 4, which is 5. 2 times x. How do you get rid of a times 2? What's my opposite of times 2? We're going to divide by 2. And the reason why we divide by 2 is because what is 2 divided by 2? It's 1, right? So that cancels out. So you're left with 5 over 2. That is my answer. It doesn't mean because it's a fraction means it's wrong. Alright, so that concludes our lesson with multi-step, solving multi-step equations. It is very important. We do need to do a lot of practices. So speaking of practices, we're going to do 3 practices right now. Alright, let's take a look. Our first beginner problem, 3x minus 1 equals 4. 3x minus 1 equals 4. So I'm going to give about 30 seconds to a minute. Remember, inverse operations, Pemdas, use add, subtract first, and multiply, divide. About 30 seconds to a minute. Good luck, go. Alright, let's try this problem. So our goal is to ask yourself, is the variable by itself? No. So we have to get it by itself. So let's move everything around. We want to add 1 first. 1 minus 1, 0. That's what we're trying to do is get rid of it. A lot of teachers teach it like this where they have dotted lines. So you have to move it from one side to the other. It helps you. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So you get 4 plus 1 is 5. Divide by 3. So my answer is 5 over 3. Right? Let's test it real quick. Let's plug it back in for x. Is this true? So we're testing. So the 3's cancel out. You get 5 minus 1 equals 4. Is 4 equals 4? Yes. That's true. So if you test your answers, you don't even have to wait for me because you already know that your answer is correct. So always check it. It gives you the peace of mind that you're doing it correctly. Good job. Our intermediate problem. Multi-step. Let's say we have variables on both sides of the equation. What happens? I'm going to give about 30 seconds to a minute. You choose which way you want to move the variables, but variables have to move to one side and all the other numbers have to move to the right side, other side. So you give about 30 seconds to a minute. Go. Alright, let's check it. Doesn't matter which way you move it. I'm going to move the 3x to the other side so we don't have to deal with too many negatives. So if I subtract 3x here, that cancels. You have 3x minus 10. See how it lined it up? I put like terms together. Now your goal is to get this guy by itself. It has a times 3 and a minus 10. So we have to do minus plus first. How do you get rid of a minus 10? You add 10 on both sides. So you have 12 equals 3x. Is x by itself now? Nope. So we have to divide by 3 on both sides. So we have x equals 4. So how do you test this if there's 2 variables? You just plug in 4 for both. So you'll do 3 times 4 plus 2. Is that equal to 6 times 4 minus 10? So you get 14 here, and you get 24 minus 10 there, which is 14 as well. So 14 equals 14. Right? Good job. Let's try our last problem, our advanced problem. It is a special case. We're going to talk about that today in this lesson. So let's say I have this. 3 times 5x plus 2 equals 15x. Try your best. Something should happen. Just take a look. We'll try to figure it out. But we'll talk about it after you try this. So I'm going to give about 30 seconds to a minute. Try your best. Go. Alright, let's take a look. So you got to distribute. So you have 15x plus 3 times 2 is 6 equals 15x. Something happens here. Let's take a look. I want to move the variables to the other side. But what happens when I subtract 15x to the other side? You get 0x. So you get 6 equals 0. Is that true? Can that ever happen where 6 equals 0? Never, so this is no solution. So when the variables cancel out and they don't equal each other, then it's no solution, right? If you had the variables canceled out and you have two numbers equaling each other, so for example, let's say I pick like 14x equals 14x, and then we divided by everything or whatever, we subtracted 14x on both sides, and then we got 0 equals 0, or 1 equals 1, or 2 equals 2, or 100 equals 100, this is infinite many solutions. Every solution works because 0 will always equal 0, or the left side will always equal the right side. Alright, so these are your special cases. You can have options where you have no solution, and you have infinitely many solutions. We'll talk about what that means later on when we talk about graphing with parallel lines and lines that intersect each other, so in all places. So with that concludes our lesson with solving multi-step equations. Like I said before, this is a very important concept, fundamental skills that you do need to learn. So please practice these problems. That's the only way we get better at this. So hopefully these videos helped you. Please subscribe, turn on your notifications. Let's get ready for some more videos.